So glad that you are here. Welcome, and welcome to the live audience. What a beautiful afternoon it is. And if you decide that you want to watch these later on demand, when it works really well for you, or you want to share content with somebody else, just go to sarahstockham.com. Underneath the watch tab, you're going to find that you can easily be able to share from there. And I do think that today is one of those that you're going to be wanting to share these fresh tools with so many different people. Heather Nicholson is going to be joining us, and she was one of the very first people, can you tell with how fast I'm talking? One of the very first people that I shared that I was getting this opportunity to have the Simply Sarah show. And I'm super excited that she's willing to be with us. And so I'm going to bring her in. And Heather, welcome to Simply Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
I am just delighted that you are here. And I have known you for a number of years, and just every single conversation that we have, whether it's a text or in person or lunch last week, just really deepens my own conversation with myself and my own understanding of the world. And I just want to thank you so much for being who you are. How did you come to this place? How did you get to where you are now?
Oh, what a road it's been. So, being sensitive as a child, and then learning, you have capabilities and psychic abilities. And then sometimes as a child, I shut it down. And then I went on my path of just being Heather, being what they would call the 3D world, and then swinging back around and realizing that I have these gifts, I have these potentials, and I want to, whatever that looks like in the world, help, empower other people by empowering themselves. And so it kind of started off with wanting to be that person who I wanted to be the change that I see, not only myself, but in the world. So I had to start with myself.
And you absolutely did start with yourself. When we first met, you were absolutely on a quest of understanding energetically what this whole encyclopedia is all about energy. And it's one that I'm continuing to learn. And then you were also just so interested in how what you were learning now could help with things that had happened in the past, could help with relationships, could help with changing jobs, could help with all these different aspects of your life. You came into this conversation truly with a wide lens. not looking just for one particular area, but a super wide lens. And so, what are some of the things that you have, some of the tools that you've learned along the way, or some of the methodologies? Let's start there with methodologies that you have learned that have been helpful for you as you have been on this energetic learning path.
Ooh, those are so one of the tools is that learning what's not ours. So asking yourself when you're bumping up against something and you learn how much of this is mine? I learned that one, and that one's I constantly when something pops up, an energy or a feeling, and I'm asking, "How much of this is mine?" And I get, not really." It's just whatever we've learned through our life. For me, I believe in past lives, so whatever energy comes in from my soul history, and I'm just like, "You know what? I don't even have to deal with it. I don't have to mentally figure it out." And so I just wind up sending it off back to source. I'm like, I release all energies that are not my own back to source. And
Mm,
it gives it permission to go. And you don't have go down that windy path of, did I do that right? What is it that I need to learn about that deep down in your heart?
yes. And
Yeah.
I so appreciate you sharing that because that's something that you have taught me about asking things. How much of this is mine? Because there is a huge difference between caring about
Yes.
something and then carrying it. And
Yes.
so when we stop to ask that question, in fact, on the way to this time for us to be together, I was actually asking some of those questions of some pieces that I was feeling pretty intently and intensely come in. And I was like, okay, I really feel this. I remember this from decades ago, but in this fresh space of my life, how much of this is mine? And then also realizing it's showing up to keep me safe, right? It's never showing up. I don't think it hasn't yet shown up to trip me up. It shows up to keep me safe, to make sure that I'm paying attention and being aware. Would
Mm.
you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. It makes you present in the moment.
Ah, I love that, Heather.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. It does keep me present in the moment. And some of the feelings that I was feeling was a tightness in my stomach. There was some, my palms were reacting to the steering wheel. There was some stuff going on in my heart that I just thought like,
Mhm.
I could feel in my shoulder that my shoulder was tightening up. And so those are just a few places today that I was just noticing. And as I began to have this internal conversation of how much of this is mine, that it began to really, and I could see the face of it for the first time. And not to be afraid of that, not to be scared by that. Some people see colors, some people have the gift of smell, some people have the gift of touch. And I think that as we use our different gifts, that we can grow into spaces of being able to have augmentations of those gifts, of different ways of being able to see. What is your in your giftedness, Heather? What would you say is your primary way of getting information, of hearing?
I feel it physically. So energetically, for me, I feel everything very physically. Um, if so I also help people cross over. So they'll try to bump my fields and I'll feel that very physically. And then I
Yes.
know I'll tell them, okay, uh, here's what's going to happen. So I ask you to please wait until I'm ready for you. I need to clear my space before I can help you. And so, yeah. So,
I think, Heather, being able to talk back to energy in whatever form that it's in and be
mhm,
able to say, now's not the time, and
yeah.
asking them to wait, I think is such a powerful piece. I remember before we really knew that we were going into a shutdown, I had gone back to visit my mom because she'd had hip replacement surgery. And my sisters and I had dovetailed our schedules by at least 6 hours so that we could all be there to help take care of her until she was able to drive again. And I remember waking up, it was a 3 hour time change between where I live and where I was. And so I remember waking up and mom needing to have support and assistance as she got up during the night, and then me being jet lagged. I was really happy every time I got back in bed in those particular early, right after surgery days, to be able to go right back to sleep. And I was really, really good at it. And I remember this really, really clear sobbing of women and children. And I just thought, what is this? And I was on very, very sacred Cherokee ground. And as I was there, so my first response was, come back when it's sunlight because I need to sleep. So I was giving that what you were talking about, talking to it. And then I went back to sleep for milliseconds, and then it became much, much louder. And I realized in that space that it was time for me to say, okay, I hear you, and you have permission to cross over. Whatever was keeping them here, I don't know. I don't need to know.
Yeah.
But to give that permission to say, yes, you have permission to cross over. It was in that moment that I understood that whatever was coming was bigger than what I had expected it to be or what I thought that it was possibly going to be. And so I just really appreciate that even though they are asking to cross over, that sometimes they're also leaving behind hints for us or ways to help us be more present in the moment and present with our loves while we are here in this space and this time.
Exactly. Because nothing is external,
Oh, talk about that some more.
That's my little road I'm on right now. So, from for the last 6 to 7 years, I got the message nothing is external, and I didn't quite know what it was until recently. The pieces started falling into place, and I was just like, I get it now, that whether it be somebody mirroring back to you, whatever you're being triggered on. So whatever somebody is mirroring back to you, whatever you're being triggered on, could also happen energetically. And it didn't dawn on me that it could also happen energetically. So, you have these energies like you were just talking about coming in, and you're like, no, this isn't mine. But also taking that second look and looking at the energies and being like, okay, what are you mirroring back to me? So recently I was just camping, and there was some aggressive energy right on the land, and I was just like, no. But also I took a look at it, and I looked within myself, where am I allowing aggressive behavior? So energetically they were coming in, and so I was like, okay, it takes a second look at myself and seeing what is being mirrored back to me, not only in the physical but also in the spiritual.
Heather, I think that we've touched on some major tools here in this first segment. The concept and idea that everything is external. The opportunity for us when we sense things to be able to have our boundary in place, to be able to say, really appreciate that you want attention right now. However, not until I'm ready, until I've cleaned my space, until I know that I'm ready to help in this process. Those are two huge pieces. And then you
Yeah.
also talked about, that you had heard this about 6 or 7 years ago, and you weren't pounding on the door saying, tell me now what this means. You were like, isn't that interesting? It keeps showing up, and waiting and being present for that for the pieces to show up together.
I had a hard time at the beginning. I had to be honest, I had a really hard time at the beginning when you're first starting out and you have all these egoic layers on you, and you're like, what do you mean? Not because immediately it turned into, what are you saying? I'm victimizing myself and all this stuff. And how dare you tell me that? And it took a while to reach through all these layers and be like, oh, okay, I get it. And it takes a process, however long it takes. You can get it today, tomorrow, a year from now. Just it's a process.
And to stay with the process. I think that's such an important piece of this as well. I am loving this conversation. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with Heather.
Hey everyone, this is Araya McGarry. I'm the host of Get Celebritized with Araya McGarry, right here Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Limelight Network, right here on E360 TV.
We've been on a SIA and been telling everyone about it since about 5 months ago. Right away, my body experienced a mini detox. I experienced full, deep nights of sleep till this day. Hair growth even you might have before, as well as physical stamina.
I can testify to that. I use my brain a lot, and I've noticed an increase in mental clarity and mental stamina.
That's so true. And our skin feels the healthiest it's ever been, guys. And to be honest with you, we do feel younger, and we're getting so many compliments. So I'm happy to chat with anyone who wants to learn more about ASEA. Feel free to book a 30-minute call with me. See you soon.
We got right into the meat of things in a conversation with Heather Nicholson that we're going to be continuing. But some of the pieces that I just want to reiterate from the very beginning is everything is external, that we have choices in terms of what we want to be taking in energetically, and we get the opportunity to sit with things or be patient or learn patience in the process or even ask questions back. And the idea of, is this mine? When energy comes in is such a powerful one. And as we bring Heather back in, Heather, I would love for you to share. I'm going to go ahead and put your website up, or the Grace group, healing group up. And I would love for you to share just a little bit about what that's all about, please.
Sure, I would love to share. I just wanted to kind of do a
Yes.
little correction.
Yes.
It's nothing is external.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. That's a huge correction that definitely needs to be made because that's the wrong word there. So nothing is external.
Nothing is external. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Grace Healing Group. Grace Healing Group, it started off, let me change that. Grace Healing Group is an online community of healers who help nurses and also staffing community. So within the Los Angeles area, which we're hope to expand out. But this online group of healers, we come together online on a Zoom call and we send distance Reiki to nurses. So we started off right before the pandemic at a local hospital. And with my Reiki partner and I, Angela Johnson, we were at the hospital. I was a local volunteer and we were running Reiki on the patients and also the staff there. But when the pandemic hit and we were shut down right before we were shut down, we were supposed to have our first nurses clinic that was just for the staff. So 6 months into the pandemic, we get the push from spirit, like, hey, you should really, you can do distance Reiki. So we wound up creating this clinic, as you know, Sarah, from me reaching out to you, asking, is there any healers out there that would like to do distance Reiki on nurses? And Angela asked her teacher as well. And so it just kind of expanded from there, not realizing not only do the nurses get a benefit from it, but also healers. So we were finding how validating it was and how amplifying our skill sets it was. It was they were just over the moon to help, but it helped them so tremendously because not a lot of the time we did distance Reiki on people, and we don't have the feedback that we can get, when we do distance Reiki. So this just helped validate their findings, and also being with other healers and talking to healers. Hey, I saw purple, and the other one's like, I saw a purple heart. And it's just, it was incredibly validating. And yeah, it's been amazing since then, and just growing, expanding, not only to just the Los Angeles area, but we have healers across the US that are wanting to help, which is amazing. And so from there, we're growing, and yeah, I can't.
It's so amazing. I think one of the pieces for me early on was that there were some people who were donating their time to do distance Reiki who work at JPL, and their understanding of science and their understanding of the movement of energy. And these were people who were older than myself. And for them to be able to talk in their multisyllabic words sharing what was happening and saying distance Reiki works twice as fast as in person. And that was what our findings were at that particular point. And so other people who were listening in you have plenty of space to disagree with that if you would like, but this is what we were finding from the beginning in terms of that the nurses would give us a name. They might would give us their name. They might tell us what they were interested in us to have work on. So, their lower back hurts, or they have stress, or somebody in their family is sick, or whatever it happens to be. They were our contact person. They were the person who's going to be receiving back the information. And yet for us as healers, then I learned so much about the different ways that people get information. And yet when we got together to share our notes, it was way more than 88% that we were overlapping in terms of what we were saying, that the messages were the same as we were individually sending the healing to the person and then taking our notes and then sharing our notes later on. So I have found this to be something that's been super helpful. And as I continue to train people, continue to tell them about Grace Healing Group, because it really does give people validation new into a healing modality, a validation of, hey, what I'm getting is legit. And once we start to trust that language, trust that place, trust that space, we then, I think, really give ourselves the opportunity to blossom even more in that. Yes, I would agree with that. So are you guys is Grace Healing Group able to meet now in person at all in any places? What are those kinds of pieces looking like as you are expanding to other places?
We do meet in person. We have Reiki shares. So, we as healers give so much, but yet we don't have an outlet for ourselves to just unwind. So we'll do Reiki shares, whether it be virtually for the people who are out of the state or can't make it. But we do online in-person Reiki shares.
Yes.
And so for that, depending on where we have it, depending, if it's in Los Angeles at the hospital that allows us to come in at the wellness center or, at somebody's home, but there is in person. Yeah. And it's just not more than, it's more than a Reiki share, because we've done cacao shares and, sound healing baths, just anything. And we spend hours just talking. Anything that's coming up, it's more of a circle. Anything that you have a problem, we sit as healers and we talk it out.
And how amazingly powerful. When I was beginning my mentoring for new teachers in the beginning of that process, they had lots of training for us as bits of mentors, as beginning teachers, support and assessment. And one of the things that was written in it was up on the wall for us, was the need to be heard or listened to is the greatest need that we have. And so as we were supporting new teachers, people coming into the field, our job really was to be there and to be a sounding board for them, and to not to have the answers necessarily. Yes, if you do, step in, please. But to be able to be there and just to be able to allow someone to talk about what's difficult in their life, not necessarily in the classroom, but in their life. And what I have noticed also in these groups is this opportunity for people who are willing to not just share what's taking place in their life, but also to receive, right?
Right.
It's not just a place to just to come and let go of everything and go, woohoo, I just did a huge release and everything is, and everybody else is flattened out on the ground. It's not about that. It's about being very, very responsible and responsive as other people are sharing as well. And introverts do need to have time to be quiet to process, and extroverts do need to process out loud in order to hear their thoughts, in order to be able to integrate things. And so I have noticed that you and the others that are leaders in the group are really, really skillful at helping those pieces move along and to keep those pieces going as well. So appreciate that. We'll be back in a minute with just more with Heather. It's just so exciting. Nicholson has been telling us about something that's really, really powerful. If you're on Instagram, you can go to @GraceHealingGroup to get more information, to follow along, to see what they're doing, see what they're up to, and to see the flavor of what they're doing. It's so powerful and influential in people's lives. I know that in this process that some people are wondering about past lives. And I do want to share with you that there is a strong, from psychologists and psychiatrists, understanding and belief of that. There is also this understanding, looking at Holocaust victims, people who were at the Holocaust, to see that in our DNA, that the epigenetics literally changed from people before to people afterwards. So whether you happen to be somebody who is more on the epigenetic side of things or somebody who is more on the past lives, definitely there can be echoes of pieces of our life that come forward that we just think, this just has a familiarity to it that maybe, I don't know that it's happened in this lifetime, but it sure feels like something that has been present in my life before. And so I just want to share that little piece in there. And as I bring Heather back in, Heather, I would love for you to share a tool. We've talked about several different tools, but a tool that you use that you'd be willing to share with other people, whether they are in the energetic space, whether they are entrepreneurs, whether they are looking to help other people, if they're caregivers, excuse me. What would be, because you have done so many different things in your lifetime. You
Wear many hats.
many lives in this lifetime. What is something that has helped you take one step and then the next step forward?
Being open to change.
Mm.
I consider that a tool, being open to change, because
Yes.
it allows you to be fluid.
Mhm.
It allows you to be present, but also not get hung up on being stuck as just seeing yourself as this, right? So we kind of put ourselves in parameters, labels, and whatnot, and so we have a tendency of sticking to the box and only living by that box. So if you could possibly drop into your heart center, and that's another tool, by dropping into your heart center and waiting there, just sensing what's around. Can you feel anything? Do you see anything? What do you sense? By dropping into your heart center and just being and allowing your heart center to show you what is rightfully next. Because we start asking ourselves, what needs to be fixed? What needs to be healed? What do I need to do next? So learning just to be is a huge tool.
What are ways, or can you use some different verbiage maybe, or share with us a way to be able to move into that heart center? I know that when I teach chakras, that we have a total of 7 major chakras, right? We have the 3 lower ones that connect us in with the physical realm, but everything that we can touch and feel and smell and see and taste. And then we have these upper 3 that really are connected into the energetic world, or the unseen world. Let's say that instead, the unseen world. And that the heart is in the center of that. And the heart is a muscle that's a valve. But when we look at chakras, or wheels of energy that move, that space is an area that needs to be open. The heart needs to be open in order for the physical realm, those lower areas of energy, to be able to talk to the upper ones and to have communication, and then vice versa as well. So the heart space is such a major, major area, whether somebody's doing energetic work or not, just being able to be present. So what are some of the ways that you are able to move to the heart center? If you like me, if I'm fidgety.
For me, what I'll do is I'll breathe into my heart, and sometimes I'll just breathe out, and I'll let an yum, which is an energetic frequency, and so I just yum, and it feels good, right? And it kind of brings you to your heart and focusing on the area and breathing. Good belly breath and out from your chest.
Yes.
And breathing in and breathing out. And then I'll do the yums. That will help me when my mind's like burr, 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 monkey mind chatter, right?
Yes.
and then I can just wait. Like I'll sometimes if in the beginning I asked heart center, show me what it is to drop into my heart center and just see what happens. If you don't get it right away, that's okay. Just try it next time. It's all about learning your process, learning your vocabulary with your heart center and with spirit and
Mhm.
divine, whatever that may be, because we're all different.
Yes.
So you need to learn your own vocabulary.
Yeah.
I can give you tools till the cows come home, but
It's true.
it is true. So,
We don't
start building that vocabulary.
Yes, yes. Heather, I think it was maybe about 6 years ago that we were doing a Reiki share at my house, and there were people who were seeing colors and just had beautiful verbiage about what they were seeing. And a little girl in a yellow dress that had polka dots on it and had a silk ribbon. And then there was another person who was able to smell things, and they were just describing exactly what it was that they were smelling, the sweetness of being out in an early morning garden and being able to walk up to something that had dew on it. And there was another person who could see things almost in 4 dimensions, it seemed like.
Wow.
And I was there and I just thought, what's my space? What's my, and feeling just a little bit like, I'm not seeing those kinds of things, and I'm not smelling these kinds of things, and I'm not seeing, in the multidimensional kinds of things. What is it that I'm doing? And Spirit spoke so clearly to me, Sarah, you are the one who is offering the space. You are clearing the space ahead of time. You are providing this space. You are doing that. And do you not see that you are feeling the energy? Because I was putting so much more emphasis on these beautiful stories, and they are magnificent. But I was putting so much more effort or more emphasis on that. And I was starting to kind of feel like, well, maybe my gifts aren't quite the same. So if people who are listening in, are finding that ever you are in that place of this little voice that's saying, well, maybe yours isn't quite as good as, and that wasn't necessarily the verbiage that I was getting, but that can be the verbiage that people hear, just for you to be able to sit back and go, take a deep breath inside of that. And again, come back to the heart space, taking that breath in, taking that moment. When we breathe in and hum, and when you do the we come back to that, our body is releasing nitric oxide. And from what I understand, that is one of the redox cell signaling molecules that our body naturally creates. So just by doing that humming helps us to be more present in the moment. And so just those pieces of coming into the heart space, humming along in that space and being so present. Are there things that you'd like to add to that, Heather?
Um, yeah, just wait to be shown. Even if you didn't get it in that moment, it will come along. You'll be walking along and all of a sudden you'll have that Oprah aha moment. You're like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And then you get it. It's your right of discovery. Instead of me telling you,
Yes.
you
Yes.
get your own right of discovery. And then it deeply seats inside of yourself even more.
Yes. And I really love that you say it that way, because in that right of discovery, the person, when they receive that, has a choice if they want to share it and talk about it with other people, or if they want to sit with it and journal, or whatever that happens to be their methodology, go out for a long
Mhm.
walk, whatever their methodology is of integrating that. But to welcome it home, to be able to have a conversation with it, and to be in that space with that.
Exactly. It's part of our journey. Those are the gifts on our journey that we get.
And the journey is not a straight line. I just want to say that for everybody listening
No.
in. If you were in doubt, if you thought somebody else makes it look like they have a straight line, a ruler came across and just did this, you're only getting part of the story, because it truly is seeing this side of the mountain and understanding that there is a road that goes around, a trail just for you around whatever it looks like, and that you can't see the other side, but yet we are energetically being brought forward and moving forward. And it is this, yes, we're bringing this toolbox along with us, but we're carrying the toolbox because the unknown is ahead of us. We're not carrying the toolbox because now we know it all. That's just not how it is in my experience. The tools are ones that sometimes we get to retool, sometimes we let go of tools, Sometimes we have these fresh pieces come in. Sometimes we have a fresh understanding of how to integrate the tools that we already have because it's all fresh and new.
Exactly. And also, for people who are out there, all of us are sensitive and psychic, and whatever your capabilities are, and if they expand. Also, I was talking to somebody who was a psychic, and I said, they're like, I wasn't sure if I want to do this. I'm not sure if I want to help people cross over. And I said, you have every right to say no. Just because you have the abilities doesn't mean you have to do it if you don't want to. And then also, I like to say, you make an addendum. Like if you don't like something, say, I like this, but I want this to change, and see what comes through and changes that as well.
And if that's hard for somebody to understand, think of somebody who has the gift of perfect pitch and
Mhm.
then saying to that person, you absolutely have to be a musician. They just have the gift. They don't
Mhm.
have to become a musician. They're going to find ways to use or not use that in their lifetime, but they don't have to be in a music hall or in a jazz place. They don't need to do that in order to be able to have that gift and for that gift to be fully part of who they are. So that's the same with these pieces as well. And I think also in this place of this conversation, if you have a gift and you want it to grow, you want it to open, that it's okay to have a conversation also with that gift and say, I would like for this to open. I'd like to see more, but do it in such a way that I'm able to understand or be present or be there,
Empower.
empower. Exactly. Exactly. Because both of us have seen people who have just blown things open, for a lack of a better word of saying it. And all of a sudden, there's this I don't know who I am, and I really don't know who I am with these gifts. And that for me has never been the goal. The goal for me has always been able to integrate and empower along the way.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that keeps on coming up that I think spirit, for whoever needs to hear this. So I have I have the ability to feel and sense, and I'm claircognizant and clairsentient, but also sometimes I do see things like a clairvoyant. One of the things is when I close my eyes and I can see through my third eye, it kept on getting shut down. I would see things very vividly, and then it felt like it was being taken away. Like the stronger I would get psychically, everything was being taken away, and I was getting very upset. And so I had to sit with that. And I found out my inner child was scared to see. My
Mm.
inner child was scared to go even further down the road. So I had to sit with her and ask her what she wanted and what she needed. Sometimes it was space, sometimes it was understanding, and just being loved upon, and telling her her feelings are valid, are so validated, and I believe you and I understand you, and I'm not going to make you do anything that you don't want. So whoever needs to hear that.
Yes. Oh, Heather, that is so, so, so valid. Thank you for sharing that. Because I do think that there are these inner conversations that, for me, that have gone on, and for lots of different people that I've been in conversation with who've been willing to share part of their journey with me, that I've been so honored to hear, is this space of all the parts of who we are, the child that we were, the teenager,
Yeah.
the, coming into our own, turning 29 and figuring out what that's all about. And then, getting an opportunity to learn these conversations in a way that makes sense for us, which was part of the reason that I shared a little bit about past lives and epigenetics, because for some people, religious reasons or cultural reasons will say, I'm feeling these things, but I can't use those words, but I can use other words to be able to describe what it is that's going on. And so loving yourself where you are,
Hmm.
the culture that you've been brought up in, and being able to take that and say, okay, let's get this figured out. I have um, a color of skin that you would think that I was born and raised in America. My parents are American, but until I was 18, I didn't live in the States for more than 11 months at a time. Usually it was about 9.5 to 10. So that we'd do 4 years overseas and 1 year here in the States. And so people would just take for granted that I would understand what they were talking about, or that I would have had experiences that they had had. And So for me, that internal conversation now, as somebody who's been here for a number of years, to go back and listen and say, hey, come along. I can help you with that. I can help you understand what those words actually mean. I can
Mhm.
help you with what that cultural experience can look like and feel like now differently. And so maybe my life looks a little bit different and I'm able to speak about it a little bit differently. But I think that so many of us have these pieces that feel perhaps disconnected, and then being able to come into a place to reconnect them. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be back with more right after this.
Are you someone who is struggling to move forward because you suffered a loss? Maybe you're even finding it difficult to complete the most basic tasks. Are you looking for a way to start enjoying life again without feeling guilty or the resistance to do so? Spiritual life coach Sarah Stockham saw a need for people who haven't learned how to grieve without putting their entire lives on pause. And so she created a program that solves this issue called Choosing Life Right Now. This program is simple and you can do it on your own. If you are ready to learn how to feel your grief while still being able to smile, to honor the sacredness of what took place as a loss, and yet still continue to live with joy, and if you'd like to take care of your whole being with grace and love, then I'd like to invite you to experience her new program called Choosing Life Right Now. Sarah is currently offering her program for the promotional price of $77, but it won't stay at this price for long. To learn more, check out her website. The address is on the screen.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
I just think that you are loving this conversation with Heather Nicholson as much as I am. Heather comes with so many gifts and this deep wisdom and understanding, and her desire to help people is pure. The amount of time that she donates is amazing to Grace Healing Group and to other areas where she's able to donate and give. Heather, I know that you have so many things that are on your plate, and I would love for you to share other pieces of things that you do, if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, no problem. Other things that I do. Our podcast is going to be ending. Okay. So I was part of a podcast called The 3 Intuitive Healers. We our last airing, our 100th airing is going to be coming up on Saturday.
And so if somebody wants to go back and listen to them, where can they find the 3?
So we are on Spotify. We are on all the platforms that are out there for podcasts. We are definitely on there. And then also they're going to be transitioning over to gracehealing.com as part of the library that you can access. So, yeah.
And what kind of things are going to be in the library? Because I think there are going to be some pretty amazing goodies.
There's going to be some pretty amazing videos. We're talking to healing masters in the community and finding out how did they get started out in the business, or what happens when you bump up against this. Just various topics that we come across as healers. And if you have a question out there, we asked our healers, like, what questions do you have? And then we went and asked the masters in the fields, what do you do in this situation? So there's going to be a library of that on all the way from starting a business to, what happens when you don't feel anything, when these things aren't on, like, hi.
Well, I know that you and Angela have taken copious notes for several years as people ask questions and stuff, that you guys are so
Yeah.
aware to capture those and to add them in so that they can eventually be in the library.
Yeah, exactly. And Delmy brings a beautiful aspect in as well with her weaver energy, being 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 the beautiful goddess that she is. And then also we're going to be transitioning over to workshops. I'm getting the push from spirit. They're like, guess what, Heather? Workshops. Yeah. So,
Yes.
the ending of the podcast and then this coming up of being able to do workshops with people and empowering and, just kind of curtailing it to each special little group that comes along and being
Yes.
like, let's build a vocabulary. How do you speak with spirit? And let's help empower yourself in that. When you feel disempowered and you're like, I want this and I'm not getting it right now. Well, what is that about? Let's take a look at that. Let's go inside. That's kind of what's going to be down my little path.
Heather, it's so, so, so empowering and exciting.
Yeah.
Because when I first met you, I'm not sure that, yes, you were speaking in front of large groups and were able to share and talk about what you do for your day job on a dime, right? But just to watch you take all of that confidence and experience that you have and be able to move it also and integrate it into what you are doing in this realm is just so positive and exciting. So as people have listened in, they've heard you talk about the Three Intuitive Healers, the podcast that they can find on the different areas. But if they would like to get more information about what this looks like at the Grace Healing Group, can they just go on to Instagram and then connect in that way? Would that be a good
They
way for them?
can. There's a link in the bio that, it's through Linktree. And you can definitely go to our website at gracehealinggroup.com and also check in through there. You can email us and say, hey, I want to be a part of the community. And we would be more than happy to have a talk with you. What we'll want to do is we'll meet you on Zoom and just kind of go over everything that, Grace, as a healer and what comes up, everything that happens with Grace Healing Group, as a community. And then, yeah, we're letting the healers know that we're there for them, whatever they need, whatever possibly, they have problems with. Let's come together. Let's have a talk.
Yes. What I absolutely love is that the healers also, once they become part of this community, get an opportunity to send in their requests as well. So there was somebody who's at least 5 states east of us who sent in a request for her son who was going in for surgery. And then there'll be other people who've also, somebody who in our own state, their partner was dying and they were asking for this to be um, a gentle, if I can use that word, process, for the person is. And so when life touches us as healers, as people who are helping other people, um, the Grace Healing Group community can also be a place that you can go to uplift, but also be uplifted as well.
Exactly.
The whole idea is that we're not healing by ourselves and we're not out there by ourselves, and that somebody does have our back and that we can have conversations with other people. And we don't have to integrate everything that they are saying or take in everything, but just to have, again, a place to be able to share and talk. So how often do you ask healers if there are people who are interested in also coming along and donating their time and being part of this incredible group? How often would you be asking for them to, what's the time commitment?
So it's about an hour and a half of their time once a month, which isn't that much. As we grow and expand, you're more than welcome to join any group that's possibly available. But yeah, just an hour and a half a month. And it's usually a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. whenever the group leaders, we have group leaders who help foster you. So say you don't really know how to take notes, or you don't know, what you should say. So the group leaders are there to help you. Like, did you happen to feel anything? Did you scan the body? Just kind of help foster that and bring it out. And then you'll notice that you'll get the confidence, and you're like, oh, I saw this and I saw that. And by listening to the other healers about what they got, and you're like, oh yeah, I got that too. It's just such incredibly confidence building, and you're amplifying your skill sets. I remember I didn't really see much when I first started out, but I would feel physical sensations, and I knew what that was until some of the healers are shamanic healers, and all of a sudden a bear popped up in my vision. I'm like, there's a bear. And so one of the guy goes, yeah, that's bear medicine. They're help healing. And I was like, oh, okay. So it just started kind of integrating together. So, amplifying your skill sets.
And then again, that vocabulary, and there is one person that I can think of, and maybe more than one, but one that's just sticks out in my mind so clearly, who gets the titles of songs and won't just write down the title of the song. The person who is the version of the song. It's like the song Jingle Bells has been done by so many different people, right? But what version are we looking for? Who's the person? And so this person will put down the title of the song, and then who is actually, what he was actually hearing, and for the people. And I don't know if the staff ever listens to those or not. But what happens then is that you all collect then the notes. How
we do.
If the nurses are asking, or the staff is requesting, is there feedback that they also get in this process?
There is feedback that they do get. So each group session is recorded so that we could upload it to a transcribing software. And what happens is that these notes get transcribed directly from the healer to the nurse. And so we recently had one nurse that was talking about how she religiously went back to her notes and was constantly looking at them. Okay, they said this in here. Okay, I got to look for that. And they went from my shoulder kind of hurts to my chakras need to be aligned. So here we are. Not only are we blending Eastern and Western medicine together, we're being the change that we want to see in like the medical field, because it's just not in the physical, right? We what I like to say is we got the issues in the tissues. So if we start addressing the issues in the tissues, it starts out spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then it reaches the physical. So by working on the nurses and then getting the doctors, because then now we started having doctors that are coming on board that are wanting sessions done as well. So it's this beautiful transition that it's making it okay for the medical field. And I feel like Grace is a part of that forefront.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so excited that we've had this opportunity for you to talk about other things, but also to talk about Grace, because I think that it is something that so many people are going to want to be part of and are going to want to explore. For sure, come on to Instagram at Grace Healing Group and get more information. If you're interested in even more than that, to go into the link tree and get more information there. I'm going to do one more commercial break, and then we're going to come back with just final thoughts.
Okay.
Are you someone who is struggling to move forward because you suffered a loss? Maybe you're even finding it difficult to complete the most basic tasks.
Reiki meditations have been an incredibly powerful tool in helping me manage my stress and anxiety. As someone who is constantly on the go, I tend to find myself easily overwhelmed and consumed in thought. By spending a few minutes with myself each day practicing these meditations, I'm able to find peace, clarity, and focus into my day. Sarah's guidance, instruction, and technique have continued to help me build on the effectiveness of these meditations.
I'm so excited that I have been able through the years to be able to share with different people the opportunity for people to take Reiki classes. Simply Sarah is not just about Reiki. It's about giving, sharing energetic tools with people people who are interested as entrepreneurs to be able to find ways in the middle of the day to be able to raise their energy, or if they find themselves stuck on an idea, to be able to move past that. I'm going to quickly bring Heather back in and would just love for you to share any final thoughts, friend.
Ooh, see, there you go. It's like, boop, nope. So any final thoughts? Give yourself permission just to be. If you're on your spiritual path and you're going at it hard, take a breather. It's okay.
Oh, I love that, Heather. And with that, we wrap up this week. We will see you next week.